We have seen what the news has indicated about the banking system in Jamaica. We have seen a travesty that has taken place with Uber, NCB, and patrons who have been somewhat disadvantaged based on a glitch in the system. Let us talk about banking in Jamaica. Banking can be one of the most rewarding experience as an individual, especially if you are a business. Banking is where you can get all your funds into a particular account or a set of accounts where they can be monitored. The funds can be protected, and then you can redeploy that capital which you have amassed over time to invest in your personal development and in your business endeavors. But when it comes on to banking in Jamaica, it is one of the most hardest tasks that any individual has to do. First, the requirements to open a bank account is appears on the outside to be pretty simple, straightforward. Yes, you just have your TRN, your NIS, a proof of identification, your address, and then you should be good to go. In some cases, you need to have a verification of referrals. But as time progresses and you have more standing in the country or in the banking sector, then the requirements become more relaxed based on a relationship that would have been formed. What I want you to know is that the banking system is designed as one that should be providing adequate financial resources so that each individual can pool funds together and redeploy where there is a need. But the system of banking in Jamaica as a whole is one that is, yes, restrictive, very much so, based on the fact that it has to try to comply with so many rules, regulations, laws, and governance structure. And it is somewhat a challenge for the average person to get things done, and it wastes a lot of persons' time, and it wastes what could have been allocated to the GDP of the country, the gross domestic product output. So we are realizing that banks are necessary, yes, but they are uh, entities which has their restriction and their limitations. And right now, in the system that exists, we have a gap in 2024, 2025. There is a gap in the banking sector for a banking system that is smooth, fast, safe, and efficient. Though we have different banks that exist, we have the central bank, the BOJ, Bank of Jamaica, which is primarily a regulatory bank for Jamaican system. It is mainly responsible for managing monetary policies, maintaining exchange rate stability, and ensuring financial system stability. The BOJ also oversees the licensing, the supervision, and the regulation of financial institutions in the country. But I want you to know that the Bank of Jamaica is not a Jamaican bank per se. The Bank of Jamaica is actually the British bank that Jamaica has been extended the courtesy of utilizing. What is it that we're saying? Just as how the Queen has control over Jamaica, and the representative here is the Governor General. I want you to think about the Bank of Jamaica as such a representative. So the Bank of Jamaica is not a Jamaican entity. It is owned, operated, and managed by the Queen or the monarchy. Yes. But in the local sphere, it gives licensure, it gives supervision to what is taking place. It does play an important role, especially when it comes on to stability of the dollar. You know, when you have exchange rates and all those kind of fluctuation, and that impacts the buying and selling of goods and services, especially if you have to export or if you are importing things can become more expensive or things can become cheaper. So if things are cheaper to import, then you'll have a lot of low value items flooding the market. When things are more uh, expensive to export, we'll utilize more what we have in our country and try to diversify from there. So they basically set those parameters in place so that the average person doesn't have to worry about the finer details. They just operate and fall in line with the system. Then we have another type of bank that exists in Jamaica, which involves the commercial bank. And these are main providers of personal and business services. They also offer services like savings, checking account, loans, mortgage, investment products. Major commercial banks that you should know are or includes NCB. NCB is the Jamaican bank, National Commercial Bank. It is branded Jamaica, yes. That bank there has been around since a long time. And then we have Scotia Bank, Scotia Jamaica. We have First Caribbean International Bank. We have Sagicor Bank. All right. So I want you to understand that as we're here on the commercial banking sector, there are two accounts I want you to understand that exist. You have the checking account and you have the savings account. The savings account is basically the account that you take and you put your money that you want to keep for uh, an event, you want to keep for an occurrence that is in the future. All right? You want cash or liquidity. In your checking account, what happens is that you are going to get your pay from whatever entity they pay you, and right after they pay you, what I want you to do is have an instant transfer into your savings account. Once you do that, you will somewhat put a barrier so that if someone tries to access money from your checking account, they cannot access because there's no funds available. All right, so you put that money in a savings account, maybe in the same bank, in a different section. All right, so with the restrictions that are placed and the difficulty, the authentications, even with those systems in place, people are still able to breach the system. And because they have so many different systems and different levels to overcome, it makes it what should be a little bit more difficult is a little easier for the persons with nefarious intentions to go into people's accounts and take what they desire. But what I want you to understand is that if you have a savings account or a checking account, those are good accounts to have, but there are other accounts that the bank is going to try to introduce you to, like the loan accounts, the mortgage accounts. All right, and few banks try to introduce you to the investment products or the investment account, and these are the accounts that you actually need to know about in order to get your money working for you. So the bank is a dealer and they sell products. And some of the products that the banks sell includes the savings account, the checking account, the loan, the mortgages, and the investment products, yes, because they get to charge you fees. And most banks, they are not doing what they used to do before in order to get money or revenue. What they do, they increase their fees, their service charges, they cut out the ease of interacting with humans while you go to the bank. So you have a challenge in how you navigate the financial infrastructure. But as it comes down to Jamaica, you don't have to worry about that too much. I do bank in Jamaica. Two major banks that I utilize include the National Commercial Bank and the Scotia Bank. There are other banks that you can use, and it's up to you. I also utilize Jamaica National from time to time because my family has ties with that banking institution. But personally, I keep all my accounts that are not currently actively engaged in transferring money to someone at a zero balance. So if I need X millions of dollars, I generate that, I get it in the bank, and I distribute it like that. But I keep my money where I can actually see it. Yeah, and that there is how many persons operate. The money you have in the bank is for a purpose of deployment to do a particular task or activity. So, yes, if at any given time you look at my bank account, in any bank that I have, it is $0. And this is not by accident or chance. I had an awful experience with one of my favorite banks, Scotiabank. I had a couple mills in a bank that is not necessarily mine, but it was given as a gift. And over time, while I was away in another country doing international studies, doing the best to come back to my country, I realized that upon return, the amount I started with, the interest that should have occurred, did not happen. So what happened is that my account was almost cut down in half, which was almost mind boggling to me. And that there caused me to be apprehensive in keeping my finances in the bank because I learned my lesson. But I've had good experiences with different banking sectors and different banks. I have had pleasant experience with Scotia because Scotia Bank was one of the first banks that respected me as an individual to offer me a credit line exceeding $1 million. So yes, Scotia, I have to put my hats off to you for doing that. But it's just that the fees sometimes can eat up the money and it does not balance out with inflation. So in some instances, you're losing money while in other instances you're put at in a disadvantaged state. So these banks exist, and if you like any bank for a particular reason, then you go to that bank. And Jamaica is so designed that all the banks are basically interconnected. So if you have information in one bank, that bank shares that information with the other banks. So everything is basically interconnected. And I would suggest that you have multiple bank accounts because sometimes your banks may respond to you unfavorably, or your banks may do things which are conflicting, and you cannot deal with a long wait time, so you can just move to another bank. So that there is something that does exist. Then we have the credit unions, and credit unions are popular among Jamaicans and offer many banking services similar to commercial banks, which often focus on benefits and low fees. We have a bank that many persons may not even know exists, and it's Development Bank. And these banks, like the Development Bank of Jamaica, provides financial or for financing for the development of projects, especially in agriculture. So if you're a farmer, you'll know about this bank. If you have a small business, you'll know about this bank. And different industries. Then you have the Merchant and Investment Bank. These is where the big boys reside. So the institutional investors, they provide corporate banking services like investment options and specialized financial products, primarily to large businesses and different institutions. But though those are structures that exist, there is also the digitalization and mobile banking that is creeping into the Jamaican society. And these banks that we are talking about, or bank entities, you may have heard about it, the CBDs, or the central bank digital currency. So we have in Jamaica the JAMDEX, which is basically trying to streamline a digital economy in which there is total control, in which there's a central banking. So there's a ledger for every single dollar that comes in your bank account. They know where it came from, who it came from, what they did to get it. So they know everything about the activities of the money. And this is just in a bid to be able to control and to regulate, in being compliant with anti-money laundering uh, acts or policies, and also the Caribbean Financial Action Task Force regulations, right? So foreign exchange and remittance exists in Jamaica, and this is where you have X amount of money from a particular country like the United States, and you take it to Jamaica and you want to exchange it. So you can remit this money, or you can exchange it at the spread rate. So depending on the rate of the market at a particular time, you may have those remittance services available for you. And this is also controlled by the Bank of Jamaica. And when we talk about remittance, we are also talking about money that comes from another country into the country, that there is remittance. All right, so people sending money from another country into your country, and that there is basically how the country gets to get some taxation, and also how the country gets to benefit, whether adversely or otherwise, from the change in market volatility. Interest rates and loan accessibility exists, but it is difficult to get a good interest rate, especially if you are not at a particular tier. But the Bank of Jamaica try to regulate the interest rate. So what you see on the board is what the average person may pay. But for elite customers, customers that don't have to wait in a line, customers that make a phone call and get an invitation to come to the bank at a particular time and transact their business in a closed room, then leave through the back door, those customers don't get the same interest rate that you get that are published to the general public. They have a lower interest rate. And depending on your profession, I learned this, depending on your profession, you also get different interest rates. So all of you could be in health. If you are a MD, physician, if you are in a certain category, your interest rate is lower than the average person. And the more money you have, the better your interest rates are, and the better your loan accessibility is. So the banks reward you to a degree, but they punish you, especially if you are marginalized, because that there is where they get the majority of their resources from, in terms of the working class people are the persons who fund the lifestyle of the financiers, the bankers, all the insurance agents. You are the ones who are funding those lifestyle. And I have some questions and concerns about some of the practices, but that is for another time as we speak about Jamaica. But Jamaica has different challenges, but I want to let you know that despite all of these regulation and the difficulty in getting money from one bank account and the restrictions placed on how much money you can get at a particular time, Jamaica still has a robust banking sector. And I like the Jamaican banking structure to a degree, but it is the friction that exists in terms of getting your money moving fast enough. That there is what I have the biggest challenge with, and the challenge of having to verify identification, and the challenges of opening an account. You have to be physically that's just ridiculous and bonkers to me, because when I travel internationally, or I have different international accounts, majority 99% that I can, the only time I have ever recall going into a bank to open a bank account was once when I was a minor, when I was traveling internationally. I have opened bank accounts in different countries without even setting foot in the bank. So to have to go into the bank, to have to file paperwork manually, to have to, these things we need to move a little faster as we expedite these matters. And I'm hoping that the connectivity of the different infrastructure can enable the banking sector for us to develop our financial arsenal to be one of the world's premier. But Jamaica is a safe place to store your money in the physical, and I'm going to explain that in another sitting. How do you store your money in the physical and not necessarily in the paper? So you must be, when you're in Jamaica, you have to be able to see your money, feel your money, smell your money, taste your money, but not necessarily have that money. And you will understand exactly, because if you can see it, they can't see it. Nobody can take it away. Nobody can actually tax it away from you. But that is a high level conversation that we have to have about Jamaica banking system. But Jamaica banking system is phenomenal, nevertheless. But is a bank for you? I believe that every individual, despite the challenges, should have a bank account. And yes, having a bank account may be advantageous to some, may be disadvantageous to others, but there are more benefits than downside. Yes, the government can put a freeze on your account, and the banks can even lock you out of your own account. They can investigate frauds on your account and put you at a disadvantage. That is why you need more than one bank account. This brings us to the point of what happened with NCB and the Uber situation. There was a glitch in the matrix, or sorry, there was a glitch in the NCB system, which NCB has indicated that they have identified this glitch, but the customers have to pay for the inconvenience of the system not responding in a timely manner. So I want you to know as individuals that the banking system is designed for profit. All right? And each transaction is profitable. The bank has to do risk management, which means that they don't want to lose any money. So as best as possible, because you have given them power to add money to your account, to take money from your account, guess what's going to happen? They are going to be doing whatever it is that they can do to ensure that they secure their bottom line, whether it is in your best interest or not. What you need to do is to position yourself in such a way that you can safeguard yourself against these ills. So what I would encourage people, if you're going to use Uber, Lyft, and all those kind of services, try to use a credit card. Not one of those credit cards that is tied directly to your debit card, but a credit card that is somewhat independent of your debit card. Because if there are fraudulent charges that take place, you can always call the banks, and the banks will have those charges frozen and then reimbursed. If it's your debit card, then that is your money, so that there takes a longer time. If it's a credit card, it's faster, and your account is not really frozen in totality, because once an investigation is going on, they will freeze the account for security reasons, all right? Because they don't want the money to be spent or squandered or whatever to take place. But for those who are using Uber and Lyft, you have to be vigilant. You have to be diligent in your execution of those requests. Do you really need to spend $1 million to move from point A to point B in 1 month? Why didn't just buy a Pro Box? Why didn't get a Tata? Why didn't just get a second-hand new brand vehicle or something and license, register it, insure it? You would have change remaining. But everybody has to do what is in their best interest. Until next time, sign out from RoadTripja. The heartbeat of Jamaica's road is Dr. A. Walk, ride, drive, and fly good. Until next time.